Welcome to Conversations with the Mayor. I'm here with Mayor Donna Holaday. Welcome. Thank you for taking the time.
It's been a long time, Sarah. There's been a lot happening with
There has
PortMedia and your new hub and relocating to your new site and getting established.
See how easily that came out?
No,
Your new hub, it just flew.
All right, fine.
Totally got it.
All right. And I love your new space. I'm glad it worked out. It's mutually beneficial for you, for the city, finally be able to rent the expansion space that we had set up at the Senior Community Center so we could generate a little income to help support a new municipal building, and it's just a win-win for everybody.
Yes. We really have had a positive response about, you know, the feeling when they come into the building. They think it's bigger. It's not bigger. It's actually a lot smaller, but it just has a more open feel. I think 11 windows makes a big difference, which is a tiny little thing in our budget that we didn't have before, window washing, but it's really important. Really important to have clean windows. It just, maybe I got that from my mom, I don't know, but they look
And there's also
nice.
one more win.
Oh,
Being
yeah.
able to bring Win over from
Smooth.
yeah,
Very
from
good.
WNBP, and
Yes.
being able to continue to have his voice
Yeah.
on the radio
We have
in our
had-
community. It's just been wonderful.
We've had such positive feedback
Yeah.
about that. I mean, people love Win.
Of course they do.
Yeah,
You know, he's got that wonderful radio voice, and
Yes.
he's been telling the news for decades.
Yes.
So-
And you know what's really great is we automatically have a news program on our channel, because it does go on the channel in the morning. At 6 o'clock, he's on from 6 to 9. And, you know, hope maybe in the future there'll be a few news packets that we can have put together from either some student interns or something that they can provide, and Win can put those out as well, and it'll just add to what we're doing. It's really great, because a lot of access centers, not a lot, a handful that have the funding can have a news director. They have a whole news thing. It's like weekly. I don't know if anyone's doing it daily. It's too much, but to help replace some of the lack of local news, so that they've picked up the slack. So it's something I've always wanted to do, but just didn't have the resources, and this has really helped, because we can go right.
And they have a lot
onto
more
the-
flexibility.
Oh, it's awesome.
You know, because it's something that is controlled, you know,
It's
by the
great.
center, and so that you have a lot of opportunities that you didn't have before.
Yeah, it's great. It's really wonderful. We're really, really fortunate.
I know,
So-
still growing pains, so everybody be patient.
Yes,
You know,
I
live
know.
streaming's not there yet,
I
but
know, it's going
yeah,
as
little by
happening.
little, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
ex-
I was optimistic that it would be all done by a certain time. It hasn't worked like that.
it's
but-
technology.
Yeah, it is technology.
You know, it never works like that.
Yeah, that's very true. But
Yeah.
we are, so the first live football game will be not this week, although we're going to do radio. I'm sorry, not this Friday. Next Friday, the 8th, is the first away football game. It's in Linfield, and if all goes well, it'll go out over the radio live. So we're going to pick up all what NBP did for the football. We're able to do that, and we hope to add basketball and some hockey too.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, we one of the other piece that we want to do at, I think it's the Reading football game. I'm not sure which date that is, but we will get a press release out and let you know too. Is the Veterans Plaza wasn't ready when we dedicated the Stalen Field, and that's a really important component of the World War Memorial Stadium. So we're going to do a separate Veterans Plaza dedication before one of the football games. I think it's the one at the end of October.
I think it's like the 20th.
I
or
think you're
something.
right. I didn't-
You know
yeah.
how I know that? I was listening to
Kevin Hunt.
I was listening to Kevin Hunt.
Yeah.
Wynn was interviewing him this morning, and I was listening. Oh, that's funny. I'm actually becoming educated on my own little world here.
Yes.
It's Wynn's world, and it's not Sarah's world at all. But it's really great. I love turning that radio on and feeling like, okay, you know, this is great. It's really great for the community. So yes, and Kevin Hunt is another, you know, gotta
Amazing.
interview him. Yeah, he is an amazing person.
And the work that he's done, and you know, us partnering with Amesbury and Salisbury and Merrimack to make, you know, a really robust program to support veterans. It's really, really working.
Yeah.
And last Sunday was the 25th anniversary of the Maudsley Art Center, and it was a tribute to veterans. It was a magnificent concert, magnificent with Don Campbell, and also recognition of Cynthia and Nick Costello, for their vision to, save the Mosley Estate and, protect it for, in perpetuity as a state park. Thank you, Governor Dukakis, and it's just, and then setting up this art center, which is just wonderful.
Do you realize that, you wouldn't realize because I never told you this, but the week before, we went to, I had 5 of my girlfriends from, well, I'd be the 5th, from high school, came up because we used to watch, go to see Jonathan Edwards and listen to his albums all the time, and he was playing at the Maudsley Art the week before, and he's friends actually with Don Campbell. I'd never been there. It's an amazing place to see a concert. I don't know how I missed it. I thought the concerts were in the field. I don't know. I can't do everything, I guess, but when I got there, I thought, what the heck? It's beautiful. It's really, really nice.
And maybe that's something you could also start, taping and being more involved in to help market some of these wonderful concerts that they do.
Yeah, it was great. We had a picnic. It was really lovely.
It is. It's lovely.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. So, yeah, I'm sorry I missed the Don Campbell because I think that would have been fantastic. I think it was.
It's quite emotional.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we just don't do enough for veterans, and we are so lucky to have Kevin Hunt, who is nonstop doing. So, anything we can do to support that, I'm willing to do, and I'd love to capture some of his stories and things because he's another person that's just an institution around. He knows so much. Right. So we got to get him. Right. And it'll be easy because we have different ways of making it easier for people.
Well, he's right next door now.
I know, but he is.
I know. He's very busy. He's on the go all the time.
Where is he? He's always going.
I know. I know.
But hopefully we can even start to record some of his stories because he does have a lot of them. Well, so on Monday night there was a big meeting and we were in there with our iPhone. Filming.
And your cable.
And cable, but people really are looking for, which makes me very happy that they're looking for the live stream. The last few years we had it, but we didn't push it a lot because it was Ustream and it was free and it would crash. Yeah. And just our whole system needed an upgrade. We have done that. It should be a very robust live stream. For Channel 8, Channel 9, for our future channel, which we don't know what it is, and then also for the radio. So people will be able to go to the website, which will be coming soon, 3 weeks.
Okay. Good to know.
And they'll be able to watch that. It will be all scalable, so they can watch it on their phone or whatever. But so we had a lot of views, though, on our little iPhone streaming to YouTube, which was impressive. Well, it was
a very, very important vote on Monday night, and as I think most people know, we have been talking, debating, studying about a garage for...
I think since I moved here in 93.
Longer than that, 3 decades. I remember, it's just been, and some people even go back further in terms of that. There's been, various ad hoc groups. There's been start-stops. There's been, getting to the point where, the vote was to take it and went down by 1. And a vote was taken and went down by 1. And, it's really all about the waterfront. And, the agreements that have been made over the years with the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority and the city, there were formal agreements that, excuse me, as soon as the garage was built, then we would begin removing cars from the waterfront and begin to expand the park that everybody wanted to do. The garage didn't look like that was having a lot of traction. Many years ago, the NRA tried to do a different approach to try and expand the park with some development, and that went down in flames. But it was an approach to try and do something to get this moving. But the community said, no, that's not where we want to go. And then things began to pick up. We were able to secure a $5 million earmark from the state, 1.5 from the federal government, and worked with it's been hard because you're working over now, this was the 3rd iteration of a city council, so it's almost like every city council you step back and have to begin again. This particular council really wanted to be, intimately involved in every single detail of the project. And that was kind of new for the city in terms of having that level of involvement, but good for them. And So we worked, I think, very hard. I think we'd be good to go back and debrief the process. I think there certainly are things that we could have done better, but it's always hard when there's multiple entities working on a project. When you have New England Development, who owns the land, you have the federal government, the state government, local abutters, city council. There's just a lot of players. But we got the 8 votes we needed to do the bonding, and we're moving forward with the garage. Now, just to, I think, support the decision of the council, the ballot question, which is non-binding, which means it will have no impact on our moving this process forward, but it allows the public to weigh, the voters to weigh in on support of the garage. So I think there's a lot, when a process is this long and difficult, there's a lot of misinformation that happens. But the bottom line is that we have worked out the finances so that the paid parking revenues are what's going to cover our bond to purchase the property and to pay for the construction. So it will not be on the backs of taxpayers. And that, paired with the money in federal and state earmarks, will be able to move this forward. So we're finalizing, we have a meeting next week, and we're hoping on or around the 15th we actually close on the property, and they're working on the plans for the demolition of the fitness factory, which is obviously the first major step. The tenants, 2 of the tenants are completely out and 1 is very close. And I think one of the things that is a positive as a result of this too is that the Vanguard Club and especially Fuel ends up in beautiful new facilities, which is, I think, is wonderful for them. You know, it's been very stressful for everybody involved in this because, again, not only, you know, all the other players, you have people that you are obligated by federal and state statute to relocate tenants and essentially help to make them whole. So I'm really pleased that that worked out for the tenants too.
Now, I know where Fuel is because I drive by there. And I'm going to stop in and see that new place. Is the Vanguard part of Fuel?
Or it's another side of that, I guess, in the building.
I see. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think that's...
So it's all great, and then...
So I know there was some concern I'd heard at the meeting, people, and it was great that the council, you know, that everyone who wanted to speak had the opportunity to speak.
64 people.
It was great, yes. I know we were looking at that phone battery charge, but it was good. We had like 300 views. It's very exciting for us. It's the top one that we have. But I know there was concern from the abutters about maybe, I don't know how it looks, you know. So in your opinion, how is it going to look?
It is probably going to be the nicest garage that will ever be built. It's not going to be just this ugly brick thing. You know, it really has you know, characteristic. It will match with the downtown.
Nice.
In terms of the brick facade, we've worked really hard on what the openings, the windows, the front of the building looks like. So anyone really interested in looking, go onto the city website, the planning departments. You'll see projects, and you'll see, you know, garage intermodal facility, and you can pull up that. The abutters were very concerned, as well as some of the city councilors, after listening to the abutters, about the height. Originally it was supposed to be over 400 spaces, so compromise is important. And so it's now 207 spaces, and you know, we have a lot of work as we move forward to keep the abutters in the neighborhood up to date on, you know, the construction process, demolition, then construction process. We've added a sort of a prefab brick fence wall that will be behind, that they've agreed on. We've made adjustments to the openings in the back and some of the windows, the covering, plantings, ivy, all those kinds of things, and we will continue to do that. You know, there's still, you know, a final traffic study that needs to be finished. There's still work that we'll be doing with John Burke Associates, who helped us establish the paid parking program, which, you know, again, a lot of anxiety about change, but has been incredibly successful in bringing a really nice revenue stream into the city to help us with the needs of downtown and the bricks. And you know, that's how we brought back the in-street fountain, also with the CPC funds, cut back turrets, did lighting, and so these kinds of things. So a portion of that funding will help to support the garage, but I believe that the garage in a very short time will be self-sustaining. You think about it, you're coming downtown, it's been a difficult winter, not a lot of places to to park because of snow piles and wherever, loss of spaces, there's not a lot in the other lots, and you can just go into a garage.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Pay a couple bucks, done what you want to do, don't have to scrape, and
They had mentioned Portsmouth a few times, but I parked in the Portsmouth garage. They do have a garage.
They have a huge garage on 900 spaces, and they just their council just unanimously approved another one a little while ago. So when I go to Portsmouth, I just go right to the garage.
Yeah, I do too.
And I think that's what our hope is that eventually well, in pretty quick time after it's open, that people will realize just go to the garage.
Yep.
Just go to the garage. It'll be open for snow emergencies. We have more work to do in operations of it, how it's going to be open, how much staffing, all of those kinds of things. But those are things that we'll continue to work with the Merrimack Valley Regional Transit Authority. And again, people are concerned about, well, you have to have some spaces for commuters. We do, but the commuters right now who go into Boston, I think there's like 17 or so that I've heard are picked up at the NRA lot. They'll be picked up there instead, but most of them walk or get dropped off anyway.
Yep.
And people who take the RTA bus that loops around are people who don't drive. So there'll be plenty of parking for commuters.
That's great. So, paying attention in the meeting as I tried to, because as a resident, I hadn't really put it together about the waterfront.
It's absolutely that was the only reason that I would have gone down this 8-year path.
Because I've heard both sides, and certainly I can understand both sides of the issue. But the waterfront, it is time to.
Right. And look what's there now, the Fitness Factory. Look at that lot as you're coming in. Finally that old green building that used to be in between Pure Bliss and, the existing Fitness Factory was demolished. But, it looks awful.
Yeah.
And this will look nice. It's going to be a really nice brick structure.
Yeah, that sounds very nice. So what happens now with the waterfront lots or the NRA?
Well,
maybe some discussion about that.
Things have come a long way in the last nearly 8 years when members of the stakeholder groups wouldn't even talk to each other. There was infighting within the Waterfront Trust. It amazed me how difficult things were, and so I think systematically, I've been working trying to, make changes to some of these boards and commissions so that we could get a more cooperative working group. The very successful ad hoc group that the City Council had put together, really made big steps forward in bringing all of the stakeholders together. The Newburyport Redevelopment Authority, the Waterfront Trust, the settlers, the Citizens for an Open Waterfront, the Harbor Master, and then they had completed and got their list of priority items, and then pushed it back over to the city to then finalize a consensus agreement and then start modifying the Waterfront Trust docs. So we have reached consensus that the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority's land will be transferred to the Waterfront Trust, who in perpetuity will take care of our waterfront. And we're working on their financing, because obviously they need revenue to do that, and then the city will work aggressively with them after the garage is built or close to being finished in terms of looking for grants to be able to expand the park. And there's some very, very talented people on the NRA now, in Bob Ulick, who is a landscape architect, as well as Andy Zifford, who reluctantly came back onto the NRA and said, well, your task is very finite now. So then the NRA will either dissolve or go completely inactive. I would prefer dissolution, but there's some conversation about, actual formal dissolution at this point because of the legalities of a 3-year look back. But we're working on that. So we have. It's hard to work on trust documents in a large public meeting. So we are hoping have just one more meeting where attorneys will present us with how they've integrated all the work that we've done to this point, and then we begin everything else that we do going forward in, obviously large public meetings.
So this is where the hotel discussion comes in after that, or is that a separate thing?
Oh, no.
So confused.
No.
about-
The hotel discussion is over on Waterfront
Okay.
West, NED's property that runs from the Black Cow to Michael's Harbor side.
I
What we're
see.
talking about primarily is the property behind the Custom House, the big dirt lot there. That's the largest area that's owned by the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority,
I see.
that's where we, want to see big expansion of open space,
Right, okay.
parkland, and then they're working on some berm area on the other side of the, behind the firehouse. There's an area beside that they're working on some land there to expand that.
I see. Okay, so they're two different.
Totally different.
Okay, that's
Totally
good to
different.
know. 'Cause I get confused.
I know. I'm
not
sure
the
other
only
people do
person.
too,
Yeah.
and people think that we're building the hotel,
Yes.
we're building the garage for New England Development.
I did hear that.
But that's not true at all. Even though New England Development is selling us the land that we're building the garage, they are required under zoning for their development to have all parking on site.
Ah,
And one of the components of this master plan, if you will, that they're putting forward is to build a hotel for the city.
I see. Okay. That'll be a different discussion as it becomes
Yes,
more
yes,
down the road.
yes.
So another big thing happened, I think it was yesterday, first day of school?
Yes.
Yeah, and it was surprising to me because it's before Labor Day.
Right. I think only once maybe before we used to,
Mm-hmm.
because I remember my kids were in school at the time, and I didn't bother me, but I know a lot of people didn't like going before Labor Day. But
I would be one of those.
But it just, I don't think we got the pushback this year
Yeah.
in terms of that particular piece. Teachers came back the day before, had nice opening ceremonies. The energy level when you bring all the teachers back together is just, it's amazing. But I have to say that I was so impressed at our last school committee meeting to learn about all of the professional development and the projects and technology and responsive
sounds like
classroom
some
and
good, video to do.
some they did Eureka Math training videos. I mean, there's just a whole range of very impressive professional development that our teachers have involved in. I am just I think our school district is just moving forward in great ways with much stronger partnerships with higher ed, which has always been something I've wanted to see, and I give our superintendent Susan Vaccaro and our leadership team tremendous credit for working with Merrimack College, Endicott College, Salem State, and I'm hoping that we can continue to build these programs, and we're looking at grants to try and give college credit to high school students. So there's a lot more that has to happen, but we made it's been a real priority for me in terms of the schools, obviously, beginning with pushing for a new elementary school and renovating Knockmolin, and that was huge, and then attacking the structural deficit. We receive only, after our funding goes to the charter school, we end up with only a couple $1 million from the state and Chapter 70 funding to run our school district. So it's been a real challenge, but we've worked really hard to be able to provide more funding for the schools, and have really met that challenge. We still have a couple $1 million to go, to address this deficit, but there has not been a single teacher layoff since I've become mayor. We have not cut programs, we've only added. Granted, there's been movement, based on census of classrooms, of people moving around or shifting positions, but all we've been doing is building and adding, and it's really exciting, and I am so thrilled that we have added a full-time Spanish teacher to the middle school.
Bueno.
Yes.
That's one word I know.
Yes, long time coming in
That's
terms
great.
of, but it's, again, a step in the right direction as we begin to build our world language programs back.
That's
Because that
great.
was just,
Oh,
those of us
hard.
who've been around a long time
Yep.
remember we had world languages from kindergarten to high school, and then slowly through the chopping block.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, I know. My son was in the beginning.
I know.
It was, you know, but
Mine
it's
too.
fine. He's doing fine. So he survived. I love languages. He did learn Spanish, and he has used it. He used what he could. So it's fine. He did fine. And it's a funny thing because the students that have been taking German at the high school, it's a common theme here. They've either come as interns or I've hired them as paid staff, and they just coincidentally have been part of the German program. Isn't that funny?
Both my sons studied German.
I guess it's really funny.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something musical or artistic to that. I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
So for people who, just to touch about the Bresnahan School, we had done a video. I want to say it was on Healthy Schools Day. It was at the end of the year.
Right.
It did get a little slowed down with our ransom, blah blah blah. But it's up on YouTube, and it'll be running. It's long. It's a little over an hour, but it does go through the things in Bresnahan that make it so special, that make it a Healthy Schools. It talks about all the different pieces, the air filtration system, and some really amazing things that if people aren't familiar with that or don't have kids in the system now, like I don't, it really shows you what what you might be paying for. It really is great.
We received extra percentage points in terms of our reimbursement from the Mass School Building Authority,
That's good.
because that was really important to us in terms of to build the greenest school we possibly could.
Yeah, it's really great. And we did. I don't know what the rules are about the playground. I know our students, or our youth program, the film group used the playground a little bit, so I thought I don't get in trouble down there. I don't know. Is it open all summer or to anybody? I don't know how it works.
Of course, it's a public school. It's a public playground.
Good to know.
It runs. Think about our parks, dawn to dusk.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know.
But obviously,
well behaved.
But obviously, when school's in session, it's used for the school children during their recess and breaks, and so. They don't want, but most people should be in school who would be using the playground anyway, so.
Right. So you had mentioned when we were coming in, we were talking about the school starting before Labor Day, and you had mentioned there's another time shift you're looking for, or looking for input on.
A group of parents started an ad hoc group and began looking at all the research around adolescence and sleep patterns, and that there's been a push nationwide to start school later, particularly for high school students. And of course that comes with multiple challenges.
Yes.
So,
sports.
well, it's not just sports. It's for daycare for families.
Yeah.
It's buses are almost $60,000 a bus, and if you start adding additional buses, the one thing that I've told this group is that I'm not going to cut programs that we work so hard to put back to bring on a couple buses. So we've got some challenges, but I think that I know the school committee voted unanimously to support this initiative of starting schools earlier before the close of the school year.
Later?
I'm sorry, did I say earlier? Yeah. Start school later. And thank you. And so each of the school buildings have been charged with bringing a team together and to identify what they see could be potential issues for their particular school, but they also have to come up with solutions and options. And then we'll get a status report update in mid-October, and then we'll be doing intensive review of all of this information and make a final decision with the goal of implementing this next September at the start of school. So, but it was still a lot of parents out in the community who didn't know anything about this, and so there were concerns about, well, if we shift everything later, what does that do to, some of the younger children? That's harder for them in terms of longer days. Obviously, sports and other after-school activities, jobs are of concern, but I don't, we're all trying to work out some of these issues.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a couple of go-rounds.
Right.
As things
Yeah,
do. So
right. And you tweak this, tweak that. This isn't working, and
yeah.
and I think that schools are evolving. There's more flipped
Mhm.
classrooms. There's more. We've done some evening class options now with in the arts, theater and arts, and maybe I think I'd like to see more initiatives working in that direction, so that this doesn't become such an
Yeah.
obstacle.
I think that there are a lot of opportunities in creative ideas in just the school schedule and just the school programs. I mean, across the country, of course.
Yes.
It's just that our schools are kind of lagging behind. Everything's, changing so rapidly.
Well, they were built on an agrarian
Yeah.
model,
Yeah.
and so, that's like, okay,
Right.
time to move forward.
Yeah, it's a lot of changes because people really, there is so much, but even just looking at people sitting at desks for a day, it even looks odd now. It's sort of
Right.
like, gosh, that's really hard on, not just, it's on your body, but also on your mind, and it'll be interesting to see how schools evolve.
Right,
over
and
the
that's why
next 10
classrooms
years.
now are, especially at the younger level, our elementary school, the furniture was so important to pick out because it's all movable and
The classrooms are great.
I
Those
know
are-
they're
yeah.
just incredible.
Yeah.
They could look different in any given day you go in
Mhm.
terms of whatever activity or whatever they're doing.
Yeah, I
Very
think
exciting.
That's a really. I'm very happy. I'm sad my son didn't get to go to that school, but I'm really happy to have that in our community for the kids that are young and are able to attend a really beautiful school. So I have no idea where we are in time, but I would like to just ask if you have other topics you wanted to talk about or bring up or mention.
Well, I figured we were probably running out of time.
I
So.
know I have no. Yeah. So do you?
Well, there's always so much more to
We'll
talk
have to
about.
try to do more
right,
regularly,
Right, now that you're
monthly.
settled here,
Yes.
we have, things that are happening at the wastewater treatment plant in terms of that final contract on odor controls. We have making decisions on the, the RFPs we've received on the Brown School and
Oh, great.
services and the new prevention coordinator there and things that.
I did meet her.
Great
Really
things that are
wonderful
happening
person.
there. The Plum Island Water and Sewer, now that we're moving forward on repairing all the hydrants there. So there's just always a long list of things that we can talk about, but
Great.
next time.
Yes, we'll do it again. Well, thank you for your time.
Always.
And I think it did go out on WJOP today, so we'll see if we have some response with that. And all of these interviews can be found on YouTube. If somebody misses them, they can find them there. So thank you for watching.